Let's look at example number 1. Yeah. So go to example number 1. Is it a binomial? Is it a trinomial? Or is it 4 or more terms? It's a binomial, right? Those steps are on page 12. They're also on the board there. Okay? So, first step, is it in standard form? Is the big power first and then the little power? Yeah, it's already done for us. Okay? GCF now. GCF. Okay? Already has it. Okay. Okay? GCF. What's the GCF going to be for? What's the biggest number that goes into 4 and 36? 4. How many power? What's the biggest power, most amount of x's I can take away? 2. Okay, that's our GCF, right? Always put the GCF in front no matter what. And then we divide. Okay, 4 divided by 4 makes 1. You can put the 1 there, you don't have to. If I take away 2 powers, I have 2 powers left. Plus. 4 goes into 36. 9 times, I have no more x's. Okay. Step 3 said difference of squares. So is 1x squared plus 9, is that difference of squares? No, it's close. It is close. The power is even. 2 is an even number. 1 and 9 are on my list of perfect squares, but it's not negative, it's not minus. So I can't do difference of squares. Okay, so what did you do on the test to solve? You set them both equal to 0, right? You said 4x squared equals 0, and then 1x squared plus 9 equals 0. And then you solved. Okay. So the 4, what do I do with the 4? Add, subtract, multiply, or divide? Divide. Good. Divide. X squared equals 0, because 0 divided by 4 is just 0. What's the opposite of squared? Something to the second power. What's the opposite of that? Not divided by, you're close. Square root. Yeah, close. Square root. We're going to take the square root, right? Like we did yesterday and on Tuesday. What number times itself makes 0? 0. There's one of our answers. Let's go to the other guy. What do I do first? Minus 9 from both sides. Good. Minus 9, minus 9. You don't need the 1x. You can put the 1x. It's not necessary, right? You don't need to. Do I need to divide by 1? No. Most of the time I noticed on your guys' tests, you guys didn't even have that. It's okay. If you have it, it's okay. You don't need it, but it's okay. Okay, so how do I get rid of the squared? Square root, just like we just did, right? Good. Square root, square root. Here's a question. What's the square root of negative 9? So 3 times 3 makes positive 9. So it's not going to be 3. It's going to be imaginary, right? This is what we talked about on Tuesday and then did some practice yesterday, right? There is no 2 numbers that multiply to be negative 9. 3 times 3, 9. Negative 3 and negative 3, 9. So what did we say the square root was? Imaginary, right? So how did we write that down? I with an I, right? We wrote it down with an I. When you have a negative in the square root, that's when you need an I, because it's imaginary. Here's the thing with imaginaries. When you're solving for imaginaries, they always have a partner. They have a positive version and they have a negative version. They always come in pairs like that. Okay? So when you have an I and you're solving, you're always going to have a positive version and a negative version. Okay? You can write them You can just say plus or minus 3i. You can write that too. Either one is okay, but there's always going to be a positive and a negative version of I. Always, 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 always. Okay? Always a positive and a negative version. 0 didn't have an I, so I don't need a positive and negative 0. Regular numbers, you don't need that. But for I, you need them both. Okay? Always have two I's, positive and a negative. All right, not too bad. All right, let's go to 2 now. Let's go to example number 2. All right. Binomial, trinomial, or more than 3 terms. Binomial. Let's see, is it already in the correct order? Yes. GCF. Yeah, definitely a negative, right? Definitely a negative because the first guy is negative, so I got to change it. What's the biggest number that goes into 2 and 2? 2, right? Itself. No x's because the other 2 doesn't have an x. So I put that guy in front. Right? Okay. Divide. Negative 2 divided by negative 2 makes 1. X4. Negative 2 goes into positive 2, negative 1 time. Okay. Right? So a difference of squares, is it going to be difference of squares? Yes. You guys saw this one on the test too. So one's a plus, one's a minus. The negative 2 comes down because it's just always needs to be in front. Okay? What powers are going to go there now? Yeah, half the power. Half the power, half the power. Square root of 1 is just 1, so it's going to be a 1 and a 1. Are any of those difference of squares left? Yes. This one here is difference of squares. So we got to keep going until we don't have any difference of squares left. One's a positive, one's a negative, just like always. Half the power. Well, I had 2, so now I'm going to have power of 1 and power of 1. And then the square root is still 1. Everything else comes down. So how often do I do that? Until you don't have difference of squares anymore. Now, are any of these difference of squares? No. Don't have the right power. The last guy, x minus 1, if it had a 2 power, yeah, but it doesn't anymore, so no. Okay, so it's factored. And then the last step, like you guys did on the test, was solve it. Okay, solve it. So I'm going to separate each of these guys. So negative 2 equals 0. That's going to be my first one. X squared plus 1 equals 0. That's my second. X plus 1 equals 0. X minus 1 equals 0. Okay. All right, so negative 2 equals 0. Do I add 2, subtract 2, multiply, or divide? Or neither? Not add. Yeah, there is no x, so I can't do either. This is kind of a trick, right? So what do? This guy doesn't give me an answer. There's no x to solve for. If there's no x to solve for, it doesn't have an answer. So that guy's not going to give me an answer. Now let's go to the next one. Subtract 1 from both sides. Square root, because that's the opposite of squared. What's the square root of negative 1? 1i, right? 1i, right? And it always needs a partner. So it's going to be positive 1i and negative 1i, or plus and minus, right? Either one is okay. You can write plus and minus 1i, or you could just write plus or minus I. You don't need the 1 in front. Okay, there's 2 answers there. Let's go for the last 2. Subtract 1, you get negative 1. Add 1, you get positive 1. And there we go. 4 answers. 2 imaginary, 2 real. Now, sometimes they'll only want the real answers. So you just put the real answers in. How do you know if they only want the real ones? You read the directions. This one said, give me all of the values. So you give them all 4. 4 boxes, 4 answers. Sometimes the directions will say, solve for real answers only. Then you only do the real. Okay? It just depends on what the question, read the question. Okay? All right, okay. So now let's go to number 3. So we're only going to do 1, 2, we're only going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4 today. 5 and 6 we'll do on Monday. So we're going to stop at number 4 for today, okay? Just because I don't want to go too fast. All right. Okay, so what are the roots? We haven't seen the word root in a while or at all. So a root is a solution or a zero. A solution or a zero. Sometimes it's called a solution, sometimes it's called a zero, sometimes it's called a root. I don't know why it's different names, but all it means is solve. That's the word to solve. Okay, of the equation x squared plus 12x plus 61 equals 0. And then you have this guy. They threw in this guy. If you see that in a question, it's saying, what it's saying is you might have i's in your answers. You might. Not guaranteed, but you might. That's all it's saying. Okay? Okay, so this is like a sentence, right? So I'm going to write down what's the important stuff. This is the important stuff, right? That's the important stuff. All right? So my question is it a binomial, trinomial, or more than 3 terms? It's a try. It's a try, right? We have steps for try. It's in page 13 in your notes, and it's also right there. Okay? First question is it in the correct order? Big power, next big power, littlest power. Already done for us. Good. What's the GCF? Is it 1 or is it something else? It's just 1, right? Good. ABC now. So what is A? 1. What is B? 12. What is C? 61. Good. Okay, let's go to our X here. So we got 1, A times C. 1 times 61 is 61. B is 12. So we're looking for the 2 numbers that multiply to be 61 and add to 12. So I did it. I've done it first period. I did it second period. I'll give you a little heads up. The only thing that multiplies to be 61 is 1 times 61. It's prime. Okay? There's nothing else. I tried. I went up to 20 something and still didn't work. So this is all we got. Okay? Will those work for this problem? No. So what happens if it doesn't work? Well, we're gonna use something you did last year in Math 2. Quadratic formula. Okay, quadratic formula. It's not the most fun thing to use, but it works every time. That's why we come back to it. Right? That's why we keep coming back to it. So how do we use the quadratic formula? Well, you used it last year, so I'll remind you how to use it this year. Okay. So the quadratic formula starts -1 times b plus or minus. It's on the board too. If I'm going too fast, if it's on the board. B squared minus 4ac over 2 times a. Okay. I don't have this written in your notes. That's why it says not in your notes. So if you want it written in your notes, you can write it in your notes. But I don't have it written like that in your notes. I just have, we're going to use it, but I don't have that part written. Okay? All right, so A's. A is 1. That goes next to the 4 and next to the 2 on the bottom. B's go next to the -1 and with the squared. And then C only goes in one spot. Only goes in one spot. Okay, so how do we simplify this? Well, we're going to do it piece by piece. So let's start with the multiplication in the front. What's negative 1 times 12? Negative 12. So negative 12 first, plus and minus. What's 12 squared? What's 12 times 12? 144 right there. Yep, 144. It's a perfect square. So we're going to 144 minus, and then I'm going to go 4 times 1 times 61. I did it last period, so it's 244. But if you didn't, you would just use your calculator to figure it out. And then 2 times 1. Okay. Next step, subtract. On the inside of the square root, I have subtraction. Minus these two guys. What's 144 take away 244? Negative 100, right? Negative 100. It's got to be a negative number because 244 is too big. Okay. All right, so what is the square root? Yeah, 10i. You notice how we already have a plus and a minus there? That's why it's there, because the quadratic formula knows, hey, you're going to get 2. You're going to need 2 of these, so 10i. Okay. Now we have a negative 12 and a 10i. What are they both being divided by? 2. So I'm going to give them, since they're sharing a 2, I'm going to give them each a 2. Since they're both being divided by 2, I'm going to give them each a 2. Your very last step. Divide if you can. If you can't, reduce. So 2 goes into negative 12, negative 6 times, plus or minus. 2 goes into 10i, 5i times. Here's my last question. How many answers is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many answers is that represent? It's only one box, but does it only represent one answer? It's actually 2 answers, yeah. It's actually 2 answers. Where are the 2? I'll show you right now. One of them is plus. One of them is minus. One of them is a plus and one of them is a minus. That's what it means, plus or minus. So you can add them, we can subtract them. Can I add them? Can I add them to make negative 1 or subtract them to make negative 11? No, I can't, because one of them is real and one of them is not. Yeah. Anything with an I can't add with a real number because it's imaginary, right? I can't add an imaginary thing because it's not real. Okay? So in delta math, which one do you need to put? It doesn't matter. You can put one box with the plus or minus. I'll show you tomorrow. There's a plus or minus button. Or you can put 2 boxes separately. You don't have to do both. Just do one or the other. Okay? You can use the plus or minus, or you can use the separate them. Okay? Yes. Yeah, go ahead. Mm-hmm. Okay, so here we go. So what I want you to do now is try number 4. If you haven't started number 4, I want you to try number 4. Get as far as you can. I'm going to be walking around. I'll do it with you, but I think you can do it. I think this is a problem that you can handle. So are there 2 numbers that multiply to be 117 and add to be 18? Maybe, maybe not. 117, I think, let's see. So this is what I do. So some of you, so this is the, when I get questions or I'm stuck, this is probably the most common place where students get stuck. I'll show you what I do. When I'm trying to figure out what 2 numbers go in, I'll show you what I do once this loads. Okay. So I put the number in, 117. And I divide. Obviously 1, right? 1 and 117, so I'm not going to try that. Then how about 2? If it's a decimal answer, it doesn't work. Okay, so 2 doesn't work. 3, 39 and 3. Okay, if that works, I'll write it down. So 117, I have 117, I have 1 and 117, I have 3 and 39. 4, decimal 5, decimal 6, decimal 7, 8, 9, 13 and 9. 10 won't work, 11, nope, 12, nope, 13, I already did 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So even though I'm trying a lot, it's going fast, right? So I think these are the only ones that work. 117, 3 and 39, 9 and 13. So will any of those work for my problem? No. Let's say I gave up too soon. Let's say I gave up too soon, and there was actually a number here, and I accidentally used this guy. It's okay. It's okay. It'll work out. It'll work out. The X was created by teachers as an easier way. And it works sometimes, but sometimes it doesn't. Back when I was in school, when we did this, I didn't have the X. Teachers didn't show me the X. The X didn't exist. It's a relatively new thing. So we just had to use a quadratic formula. That worked every time, okay? It was a pain in the butt, but I have some students who don't like the X. They are very much anti-X. Right? So they go right here. They just do every time. And it works. It works. Okay? So don't be afraid that, oh, there are numbers there. Well, even if there are, you'll get an answer. So -1, times b plus or minus the square root b squared minus 4 times a times c. 2 times a. A is 9. B is 18. C is 13. Okay? Piece by piece. Start with the multiplication. Multiplication on the outside of -1 times 18. -18. Oops, where did I go? 18 times, and then plus or minus the square root. 18 times 18, I think, is 324. If I remember correctly, it's 324. So no, multiply first, and then subtract. Yeah, multiply first. Great question, because I get that's a great question. Do I subtract 4? After you multiply. I multiply and then subtract, yeah. 4 times 9 times... times 13 is 400 and something, 468. And then 2 times 9 is 18 on the bottom. Okay, multiplication's done. Now subtraction. -18 plus or minus. When you subtract 324 minus 468, you get a negative number. -144. So multiplication first, subtraction second, and then do the root. What is the square root of -144? 12i, yeah. 12i, because it has a negative, it's got to have an I. If it wasn't, if it was positive 144, it would just be regular 12. Okay? All right, they're both divided by 18, so I'm going to divide this one by 18, and I'm going to divide this one by 18. Reduce if you can. Divide if you can. 18 goes into -18, -1. 18 doesn't go into 12. Doesn't fit. It's too big. But I can divide them. I can reduce them. What can I divide 12 and 18 by? What's the biggest number? 6. So 2 and 3, right? 2 and 3. So 2i divided by 3. You can write it like that, or you can write it like this separately. Do you have to do both? No. Okay? Because it's two answers. I can't add them together because one of them has an I and one of them doesn't. All right. Okay, so we got about 24, 23 minutes or so. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give you two practice problems to do. Where are you going to do them? On page 18. Page 18 should be fresh and clean. Page 18 should be fresh and clean, nothing written on it. We'll come back to 5 and 6, we'll do on Monday. So 5 and 6, we're not done with this lesson yet, we'll finish it on Monday. But for right now, page 18, I'm going to give you two problems to do, and I want you to do them on there. Okay, and then we'll be done. So we'll call these example 7 and example 8. Example 7 and example 8, okay, on page 18. Okay? And then you can tape in. We're not done with the lesson, so I don't know if you want to tape in. Maybe just fold it and put it in there, and then on Monday we'll tape it. Or you can tape it so you don't lose it, and then you can, up to you guys. But I want you to do these two problems. Okay, so those are the answers. When you get to the answer part, the answers are in red. Okay? A was 25, B was negative 40, C was 17. Now, there weren't two numbers that multiplied to be 425, and I couldn't find any. There might have been, but I couldn't find any. So I just decided, okay, I'll go to this guy. Be careful, because this happened last period. So I plugged in 25 for A, C was 17, and B was negative 40. Negative 40 times negative 40 isn't negative 1,600. If you got a negative number here, it's because you trusted your calculator too much. Don't trust your calculator too much, because I'll show you. Your calculator doesn't have a brain, you do. Okay? A negative times a negative always makes a positive. So watch, I'll show you two different problems. And they get different answers. One is negative, one is positive. Because your calculator thinks if there's no parentheses, your calculator thinks, oh, there's a negative 1 in front that you didn't write. So it's negative 1 times that. So let me do exponents and then multiply times negative 1. That's not what I want. I want you just to multiply. I want the calculator to multiply negative 40 times negative 40. Okay? So if you're not sure about that, just put negative 40 times negative 40. Do that and it'll always give you the right answer. Okay? Because if you don't put parentheses, it'll give you a wrong answer. Calculator doesn't have brain. Okay? So it doesn't know what you mean. All right. Okay. All right, so we go there, and then 1,600 minus 1,700 is negative 100. That's 10i. Divide them both by 50. You can't divide, but you can reduce. 4/5 and 1/5 I. Okay? All right. And then the next one. The next one was a binomial. The next one was a binomial, so I didn't need to do ABC. I just did a GCF, negative 1x squared. It's not difference of squares, so I just set them equal to 0. I got 0 for one answer and plus or minus 1i for the other answer. Okay? So those are the types of problems. We'll do some more tomorrow. We'll do some more tomorrow like that. Okay, these are the types that you're going to see tomorrow. I just wanted, since we had a little bit of extra time, since we didn't finish the notes, I wanted to give you a couple extra problems. So your notes, you can tape it into page 18 if you want, but you're just going to take it out again because we're going to finish 5 and 6 on Monday. So if you don't want to tape in, it's okay. Just don't lose it. So fold it and put it in your notes, okay? So that, yeah, just don't lose that. If you want to tape it in, it's okay. And then you can just take off the tape on Monday if you don't want to lose it on page 18, or if you don't want to, it's up to you. Okay? So that on Monday we can finish. All right? Okay. All right, we'll finish, like I said, we will do practice tomorrow, and then next Monday.